Hey, what's going on guys? It's Mark back on the Land Rover Discovery 3 Toolbox. Right, on this little video, what we're going to be doing is changing that little centre bearing on the prop shaft. Okay, now that gets really deteriorated over time and there's a heat shield that actually covers it. And you've got to really get in there and wobble it around to see if it's gone. It's not actually visual unless you take that plate off, okay? So if you think yours is gone, get underneath, give it a rattle around and see if you've got quite a lot of play. If you've got sort of like 1.5 to 2 inches of play each side, that means that bush that covers that surround is deteriorated and gone, okay, and you're going to need to swap that out. Now, it's not an easiest job in the world to do, as you'll see. It's a bit mucky. You're going to need lots of rags. You're going to need some new CV grease. You're going to need some torque spanners. You're going to need axle stands. You're going to need a jack. And make sure you're awesomely safe and look after yourselves. We don't want any accidents happening, okay, when you're trying to replicate these things that I do. And also, part of the filming that I did miss out was once you actually get this dust cover boot off, you'll see further on in the video, I take this dust cover off and I've got to chisel it off with a screwdriver all the way around. Now under there is a little tiny clip which runs all the way around, okay, and it looks like a circlip, but you've got to get your screwdriver or a pair of circlip pliers in between it and open it up like that, okay, to slide that shaft and to part the two sides of the shaft. Now when you do that, make sure you put a little line across the top, or just mark it with a Tipex pen or a yellow marker or somewhere, because where the splines go back together, you're going to need to make sure they go back on the same splines, okay? When you pull it apart and push it back together, make sure you've got a line going all the way across. Do that on the prop shaft as well, okay? When you take it off, put a mark on the prop shaft and on the housing, and then you'll see exactly where it's come off, and you can replicate that and change it and put everything back on the same place, okay? So I hope that helps. Let's get into the video and be safe, like I said, and look after yourselves, and hope it goes well for you, okay? Hope you enjoy the video. Right, okay guys, now I'm underneath, as you can see, and the rear prop shaft bolts, I've removed all of those. Okay, I'll leave in the description, I'll leave all the tools you're going to need for this little job, and all the safety precautions as well that you're going to need. So from there we'll go to the front prop shaft joint and I'll show you what's going on there as well, okay? Right, okay guys, we're at the front end of the prop shaft joint now, and I've just removed 6 of these little guys, okay? Now they screw straight in there. They're all Torx, like I said. I'll leave a description of the tools you're going to need in the description below, and right above me here is the offending article. Now, as you can see, I don't know if that's clear. Let me try and get a bit of a clearer picture for you. You can see that bearing is completely let go and that's all loose. Now you'll have a bolt that side and a bolt that side. They're 13mm. You've got to undo those and then hold that and support it when you drop it, otherwise it's going to drop on your head and you don't want that. And then we'll lower it to the ground and it should all come apart, and then we can have a better look of what's going on when we've come out from underneath, okay? Right, okay guys, after a bit of clattering and banging, we've got it out. And as you can see, that is completely parted and completely perished from that bearing holder. As you can see, the bearing's still moving freely across here, but that is completely deteriorated. Now a lot of people don't realise that these have actually gone because they're hidden underneath underneath that heat shield and that protection plate underneath, which I'll show you under there. It's by my toolbox, so it's a bit dark, but it's just an aluminium plate that covers everything there, and you don't hardly see them. So really you've got to get under there and give it a really good wiggle to see if there's any play in it at all. There should be a slight bit of play because that bit of rubber there is attached to here, so it can flex very slightly and support that prop shaft properly, but that's really deteriorated and shot, so that's no good. So now what we've got to do is strip this thing apart, which is going to be fun. So we're going to need a little chisel for that, okay, and we're going to have to bang this off to get to the coupling underneath before we can remove a little split pin and pull this apart, so we can then get our puller on this bearing puller on here and yank this bearing off before we can put the new one on, okay? Right, okay guys, now then what you've got to do, I forgot to press play, typical me, never mind. This little cover here fits over the top, and what you've got to do is get a screwdriver, but put it very, very level. There's a bevel all the way around here, which is underneath that, So if you dig in too much, you're just going to dig into that metal there. You can see where I did it a little bit there, and it's not going to do anything. So what you've got to do is you've got to really put your screwdriver flat so you just catch the metal on there, okay, and just tap it very, very lightly all the way around until that boot pops off, okay. Really important that, guys, that you hold your screwdriver flat, or you're going to be here for ages smacking that away. I just noticed that when I was doing it. I actually raised a little bit of it here and realized that there was a slight lip going all the way around. I suppose that's where it's pressed in slightly when it's actually formed in the factories. But that's the best plan. Keep it very low and knock it off, and then you will come across all this lovely grease inside, CV grease, and you've got to get that off, because you've got to find a little clip inside there so we can split these two apart now. So I'm going to clean all this up and get back to you when that's done, okay. Right, okay guys, once you've got it apart, you've got to buy one of these little bearing pullers. I got this one from eBay. It was about 15 or 16 quid. Very, very cheap. Basically, it just cups around the back of the bearing there. You put in these, screw in these two bits here, okay, put that bit in there, screw them up, put that central pin there right through there, and you screw it up, and then that in turn pulls that bearing forward and pulls the old bearing off, okay. So I'll get that done. I can't do it, I haven't got my tripod with me today, so I need both hands. So once I've removed that, I'll get back to you, okay. Right, okay guys, that's the old bearing off, and we've got the new one. Now I tell you what, that was a pig of a job to get that off. Even with that puller over there, I bent the puller. You can see the bolts on the side. It's only a cheap one, but it's probably only, it might be good for another job, but everything seemed to be failing. I had to put a lot of pressure on to get that little bearing off, but we got him off in the end, and we've got the new one there and the dust covers as well to go back on. So what we want to do is get a bit of emery cloth on there. That's pretty clean as it is, but we'll that goes back onto the shaft. Yep, that goes onto the shaft like that. And then what we've got to do is that centre silver bearing there, we want to be tapping it on with that, okay. Don't tap on the outside of the ring as you'll damage the bearing. The silver ring on the inside nearest to the shaft, that's what you want to be tapping it back home with. And make sure you get something long, like a bit of pipe or something, that's going to put equal pressure all the way around it and knock it back on. And I'm going to have to find something like that, because I can't find a bit of pipe that I had, so I'll get back to you when I have. Well guys, I'm sorry about that. I'm back in the house. The phone ran out. I thought I was still filming, but the camera had stopped sadly. Now we stopped on that last little bit there where I was putting that bearing back on, and I said you've got to get a bit of pipe to actually go over the top and sleeve that back on, and then you tap that bearing down all the way to the bottom, okay. Once that's seated in place, obviously put a little bit of oil around it as well, so it'll slide down that shaft easy. More lubrication on there, obviously that'll make it seat down better in place. And once that's done, you basically just reverse the process. Put the back of the prop shaft in first, holding that up either with a jack or an axle stand or something like that, just to keep it up while you get those 4 bolts in loose. Don't tighten everything up straight away. Then you can either put the 2 bolts in on the new bearing up under the center, and then you can put the, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think it's those 6 Torx bolts on the front, okay. And then you can wind everything up and torque that up to specifications, and then it's all done. I will say that bearing, to get that bearing off, I didn't have a vise, and so I had to put it on my knee. I was kneeling on it, did everything to try and get that thing off. It was a bit of a pig of a job, like I said, but at the end of the day we did it. It worked, saved me a lot of money. I love doing this stuff in my Land Rovers anyway. So I hope that wasn't too much of a disappointing video, and I hope I showed you the majority of what was going on and what needed to be done. And if you like my little videos, guys, I'm a new channel, so I'd love to have you aboard. Hit that subscribe button, show me a little bit of support, and give us a thumbs up and all that good stuff. And I'll be doing more videos. I think we're going to be doing the auxiliary belts, or belt I should say, on it next, because that's a little bit cracked and looking ropey. So I've got a new tensioner and a new belt to go on there as well. So I'll show you, and I'll do a proper video this time, all right? Everything will be done right, and hopefully we'll get it all done properly, video it properly, and get it all edited properly and looking nice for you guys, all right? Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and look after yourselves. Always be safe, always use safety precautions, axle stands, and your jacks and everything else. Be very safe, because you don't want those things falling on you, because that would be the end of you, sadly. So always be super careful, and make sure you, another thing, make sure that you put a block or a couple of blocks or chucks underneath the front wheels, because when you, and it's in park and all that stuff, because don't forget, when you take a prop shaft off, you could end up rolling backwards, okay, when you drop that shaft off. So you've got to make sure that's super supported underneath there, front wheels chucked up in park, and parking brake on as well, okay. Anyway guys, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Land Rover Discovery 3 Toolbox. Bye for now.